Hi, my name is Mr. Gregory. I'm the robotics and engineering teacher here at George C. Marshall High School and Academy. The students learn about robotic systems and subsystems, what goes into the construction of making a robot, how to program a robot, and the design process. So going through and remodeling, rethinking, figuring out what they can do to improve on a problem. So I would say my favorite unit we've taught so far was the Robotics, where the students made up fake countries and made robots to compete in different challenges. It's pretty successful. I think, who won the first year? Was it Norway? Or the first?
You guys was on the island. Norway won.
On the island?
On the island.
But you guys won with an asterisk. Thad one. Yeah. So I would say my favorite lesson has so far been the unit for Robo-Olympics, where a fictitious country of Thad over Chad was victory over all the other Robo nations. A typical day in robotics class starts with me talking for about 10 minutes, and then the rest of it is on the students. They work together in their groups, talking about what they should do to their robots, what will work and maybe what won't work, and kind of going through the problem-solving method. And then I kind of just bounce around and ask them questions about their robot to get their thought process moving.
My name is Jack, and the thing that made me want to take robotics is basically kind of a desire to take like a STEM course, but all of the STEM classes are basically designed around like the engineering process, where you like prototype it, figure out what works, what doesn't, then take it back and redesign and rebuild. In robotics here, basically, if you need a part, you just go grab it, assemble it, and within 5 minutes you can basically figure out, okay, does this work, does this not, in what direction does this kind of take my project, my robot?
My name is Ronan. I go to Justice High School, and I also took STEM design there, although it was online, so it was a bit different. But the reason I wanted to take robotics class is because it's sort of a more focused class where you're learning about one specific area of STEM and how that the more focused nature of the class allows you to, I think, better experience the design process, where rather than designing a bunch of disparate things, over time you also get better at designing your robots, and you also have a much more personal role in designing it rather than trying to fill out stricter criteria. It's a very open-ended class.
I would say if you like doing hands-on work and trying to go through somewhat complicated challenges and you feel satisfied when you solve a challenge or when you get over and find a solution, this would be a great class for you. Even if you don't plan on pursuing robotics, when you leave high school, it's still going to leave you with some skills afterwards.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I really like about this class is how there's no worksheets. Like sometimes we may do like a mini lecture where it's just like basic info about whatever you need to work on, but most of the learning is really done by you, where you like look at a problem, think about, okay, how can I fix this, or how can I solve this problem, and then you gradually work your way to a solution.
Yeah, it's also a very self-directed class where your solution to the problem you have to come up with yourself, and it's important to make sure that you and your group are able to weigh your options and figure out the best way to do it on your own terms.
So the prerequisite for this class is currently just STEM design, and I think that's a pretty good prerequisite, but you can still gain access to this course if you had maybe more interest in robotics, or if you had some experience in the past using maybe Lego robotics, or maybe you've even worked with Vex before, or really any kind of passion or desire to take this course. It can really fit just about anybody.
The thing I like best about robotics is kind of just a combination of like the pace of the class, where everything happens much faster and you get an idea of what's going on, and also like how all the problem solving and learning is kind of self-directed, where you're figuring out things as you go, and kind of everybody is collectively assembling this base of knowledge, but through entirely different experiences and different ways to get to the same solution.
Yeah, my favorite part about robotics class is, similarly to him, also the sort of open-ended design process, where everyone in the class is likely to come up with a completely different design for the same goals. and it sort of lets the class create a base of knowledge that they can use to work with each other and help each other out, but also it lets you create your own robotics designs and solve the problems in your own way.
When it comes to taking the class, I would say be ready to mess up and to kind of restart things, because a lot of the time, like with the robot I just made, like your original design is not going to work, and you're going to need to figure out, okay, how can I like salvage this or rebuild it in a way that actually satisfies the criteria and is easy to build in the limited amount of time I have left in the project.
Compared to STEM design as the prerequisite course, they really take the reins off in this class, where you're working a lot more. Your assignments are problems to solve, not necessarily things for you to build. You don't build a specific robot, you build a robot that can do a specific thing. So when you take this class, you really got to be prepared to be able to design your own things and be willing to work creatively and with others.
Yeah, I think you should definitely be prepared to be a little bit frustrated in this class. Your plans don't always come to fruition, and you need to be prepared to go back to the drawing board and see, how can I fix this, and be okay with not succeeding. That's totally fine.
Yeah, I think part of what I like about the class too is kind of the mindset it tries to bring you into, where kind of when you're first building things, it's not going to work perfectly, and you're kind of going in prepared to be like, okay, this isn't going to work, how can I build on this, which is a mindset I think is really valuable.
Yeah, it really, the class really helps you learn to accept your mistakes and just work towards fixing them. So if your robot doesn't do what you want it to, the answer is not to, you don't fail the class if your robot doesn't do it. You just figure out what you need to do until it works. It's a very iterative process, and it also helps when you're in groups who can help you work out your stuff.
In engineering systems, we have a lot of open-ended questions as well, where the goal is to use different tools and different equipment in the shop, but then how you want to go about using that is really up to you. So I give you some constraints, but I give you a criteria as well. So for example, right now we're making this thing called the do-nothing machine. And all it does is you spin a gear or you spin an arm and it spins pistons back and forth. And you can make it as simple as you wanted it or as complex as you wanted it, but ideally at the end of the day, everyone has a slightly different machine or a slightly different do-nothing machine, and they've used all the equipment in the shop to do it. So it's very open-ended. So some of the equipment we have in the shop, we have some laser cutters, or we have a laser cutter that we can use. We have a couple of 3D printers. We have a whole wood shop, very full, with about as much equipment as you could think of, like CNC routers, table saws, miter saws, drill presses, all that fun stuff. We have plastic injectors, vacuum molders, sheet metal rollers and brakes. Really just an endless amount of equipment that you probably won't be able to find outside of a fab lab or a high school setting. So it's great to be able to get an experience or a chance to use these tools while you still have access to them for free.